if you look at how many generations back women have owned businesses, it's not really that many. And so the transfer of this knowledge and this information, it's new to still a lot unknown. It's such an accomplishment to be able to have a successful, profitable business. And now everybody's looking at, okay, now what's next?
Welcome to Reward, the podcast of The Trust. We are the show specifically for women entrepreneurs who want to build businesses into the multi-million-dollar revenues and beyond, but especially because we know the reward is much greater than that. I'm Allie Brown, and I'm excited to introduce you to these diverse female leaders from a variety of industries, women making huge impact and who are unwilling to settle for the status quo. On the web, visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there. Now, get ready to enjoy this episode's powerful conversation. Andrea, where are you today?
I am in sunny San Diego.
Has it been rainy there? What are these stories about weather and floods and...
Yes. Our friends in Northern California are getting a lot of that bad weather, but I'm in Southern California, so it's just drizzling here. Can't
Yeah.
complain.
Yeah. But we're all spoiled in these areas when it
Very,
rains. We're
very
like,
true.
ugh, it's disappointing. You want your money back. Like, but because it is sunny San Diego. I heard an interesting stat about San Diego, and this is completely unrelated to what we're going to talk about today, but it just reminded me. Have you heard of the Man Diego? And how there is supposedly, this could be urban legend, but there's a 7-to-1 man to woman ratio because of the military bases and apparently all the guys who moved there after like Top Gun and Anchorman and these movies. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it's a mix of goods, though. I hear there for if you're single, which you're not,
Yeah,
but
that's actually really funny. I think I have more single female friends than men, so I don't know.
well, apparently they're out there wandering
Yeah,
around. I can't, promise the quality of the goods, but they're there. So it's in Man Diego. Um,
Man Diego.
I'm so excited to finally get to talk to you because we have these brief conversations here and there in the trust, and I've told you this before personally. I want to tell everybody that the more I get to know you, the more thoroughly impressed I am with just what you have created and the expertise and knowledge you have that is so solid in such a world of everyone being an expert and everyone wanting to share anything on a topic that's hot. And, you've built such a solid base of expertise and wisdom in some areas that I think, everyone should hear about today, and giving some tips on, what's to come, especially in the areas of selling your business, getting things solid. Um, why don't you start off talking about a bit about your background and, how you came to be the Andrea Jenson of today?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's such a uh, that compliment means a lot to me, so thank you. Um, it's kind of funny actually, if you go back, and how I ended up first in accounting and then, running this business that I am. I just wanted to play soccer. I got recruited out of high school to go to college to play soccer. And that's really as far as like I had thought, down the road. And I decided I was going to take business classes. I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur myself. So it's, what I was raised around. And I started taking accounting classes and I'd get an A. I'd get an A. And I just was like, oh, this is helping my GPA, which means I get to play soccer. So I'm going to take more of these. And at one point, my professor pulled me aside and he said, this doesn't come naturally to most people. Like they have to actually really study and work hard at learning accounting. And so, a little light bulb went off and I go, oh, okay, well, to me, this is a language that I just pick up and I'm able to like in my head see how a financial statement translates to a business model all the way down into like how things are actually, the operations of a business. And
What's
so,
about it? The patterns? What feels so natural to you?
yeah, that's really interesting. I'm not quite sure, but I like the flow of how when you're looking at a profit and loss statement, I had one professor once who said, give me a glass of wine and a financial statement, and I'm as happy as could be. And I just sat and thought with that for a while. And I was like, I agree on the glass of wine, but what is it about the financial statement? And so I really had to like kind of that's what started me thinking about like, okay, this is telling us a story, right? So for your audience especially, right, we're business owners, and when you give somebody your financial statements, it's telling you a story of the decisions that they've made in their business on how they're going to acquire customers, how they're going to deliver the service or the products that they're selling to those customers, and then it's telling the story of the decisions that they made and how to run the business, how to reinvest into growth, how to all of the different components that go into a healthy business model, right? These are all the things that your financial statements will tell you. Um, so fast forward college, I ended up working for a venture capital firm, didn't even really realize the exposure I was getting. And I worked there for several years. It was really exciting. And I saw a lot of, they were investing in um, early stage companies. And I saw, gosh, a lot of these didn't actually pan out or make it, you know? And so that started me thinking of like, well, why not? And then from there, I moved on to what is, I guess, in the best way to say it, it was almost like a private equity company. They were acquiring physical therapy clinics at high volume, doing roll-ups, right? And I was in the accounting department. I was managing the accounting department, and I was closing out hundreds of books every month and rolling them up into different levels of partnerships, and then up until finally into the parent company, the investment company. Um, and I loved it. I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever because you just got all this exposure to all these different, clinics and how we were trying to standardize. We had a model that worked, the recipe, right, that worked, and we were trying to get everybody in uniform with that one. So I got to see some really cool stuff, and then after that, I went to work for an oil and gas, a publicly traded oil and gas company. I saw, the other side of regulatory and different types of things with the SEC and things, the different types of reporting and then after that, I decided it was time to go off on my own. I had some personal things, I had a daughter born. She was actually born with cancer, and so my corporate kind of climb came to a screeching halt, and I was like, whoa, everything changed and my priorities, completely shifted. And I wanted more time to be, available and still have that professional, um, that satisfaction of giving back and being useful, right? And at the same time, being available to be a mom and raise a family. So
Yeah. How old's your daughter? How old is that daughter now?
she's 15 now. And after a couple of years, things got a lot better, but those first couple of years were really tough. And, I'm so thankful that we have opportunities, right? I was able to step away from the corporate scene and do something different. So,
Yeah. You mentioned that your parents were entrepreneurs. What was their
mhm.
business?
Yes, restaurants. So, in San Diego, we have there's two locations left. It's called the Barbecue Pit, and it's a restaurant that my dad's dad started.
Oh my gosh.
And so then my dad bought it when he was 20. One of the locations. At one point, I think there was like 5 locations in San Diego. So,
Yeah.
so it's still in the family.
And you didn't want
But
to own a barbecue pit?
it's funny. I did, and he never served alcohol, and so in my brain, I was like, "You have to serve alcohol because you got to get the
Yeah.
tickets up." And I was doing all the
Beer,
math and the accounting,
barbecue,
right?
right.
And he was like, "No, no, that's, not a direction that we ever want to go." And I learned a lot, and I have a really good work ethic because I saw, and my mom has her own business as well. She's in the medical field. But I just saw them grind and work so hard, and it was good to see because I was like, yeah, I don't want to do it that way. And at the time, they went through some tough economies and they didn't really have a lot of like options when it came to that. But it was good for me to see like, okay, I took I took this other path, right? I went the college and then into the corporate, and I saw how the big companies were doing business. But then I had this history in my brain of how small businesses work. And so how my company that I founded, the cash flow CFO, kind of came to fruition was I was like, there's this huge in between and nobody's serving this market. Nobody's talking to them and explaining like how to take a P&L and a balance sheet and a cash flow statement and make decisions from that, which is what the big companies are doing, you know? So
Right.
huge, huge, huge gap there. Um, and so that's what we do now. And it's so rewarding and it's just so needed, to be completely honest, you know?
So give a snapshot of what your business is today.
Sure. So the company is called the Cash Flow CFO, and we have a team of about 30 accountants, and they range all the way from CMAs, down CPAs, staff accountants, controllers, bookkeepers, the whole shebang. And we come in and we basically facilitate the whole financial pillar of a business. So you could install our team into your company and we would have all the different levels of the roles so that the business owner doesn't have to manage something they don't, number one, understand. Number two, know what it should look like, right? They know that they want clean financials to be able to make decisions, but there's so many moving pieces that go into that. So we're doing systems, processes, we're documenting SOPs, we're creating all the worksheets to help the business owner understand and make decisions from data. um, it's like as women business owners, we have the gut and we have data available to us. And where I think most businesses are really successful is when they can check their gut with the data. And that's what we help them do.
So your services go way beyond the scope of a typical CPA firm. It sounds like with you get into SOPs and like getting them to think forward. And I know your new specialty is also helping businesses prepare for possible sale or acquisition.
Mhm. Yeah. No, we do. We're actually very, very different from a traditional CPA firm. We don't even, they look at us and we're completely different business model. You need both of us because we both serve very different roles in the business. So your the way I like to explain it is imagine if you're driving down the road in your car. Sitting in the back seat is going to be your CPA, your tax preparer, and your bookkeeper or your accountant. They're reporting on historical. They're looking out the rear view window of where the car, the business, is going. And sitting in the front seat next to you, the business owner who's driving the car is your CFO. So they're helping you plan, prepare. Here's what's coming down the pipeline. Here's how we're going to achieve the financial goals that you want to achieve. It's connecting those pieces where if you call your tax preparer and you say, here's my financials, what should I do with my business? They're going to look at it and from a pure tax lane, tell you what you should do. But that's not always the case if you're trying to grow your business, if you need to get financing for your business, if you're personally going to be buying a house, you don't want to chunk down and take as many tax write offs as you can because your financials aren't going to be as strong and healthy as if you're showing more profit. So it's one of those where your CFO is your strategy and then you bring in all the other experts to do what they need to do, but the CFO is kind of like that quarterback that's pulling all these different professionals and they're um, what you're paying them for as far as like advice and guidance and implementing it and making sure documentation is there, that all the things that go into being able to really maximize all those other advice that the business owner is getting.
Is the fractional CFO model more popular now than it was years ago? Because I do feel like it's something that the small business owner has always been trapped, right? Like you said, the typical services we hire are more the rear view mirror type people, and they're helping us
Mhm.
clean. I always call it clean up the mess behind me as I'm like, plowing the way, and they're like, all right, we'll make this work. And, the taxes is this way and whatever it is. And then there's this forward planning, which I know over the years, we hired in-house, we tried out a house. It was just such a mess. Now it seems to be there's more of these services around.
Mhm. So thankfully, the fractional CFO model is gaining some traction. When we first started, offering this service, there was so much education. And I would explain to a business owner, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is the benefit of having it. 99% of the time, the response was, oh my gosh, I didn't know that service even existed. That's amazing. And so now they're starting to be more popular and they're popping up more and more in the market. But what we're seeing now, it's like it's kind of the double edged sword. Now what we're seeing is there's a lot of one-off professionals saying, "Oh, I'm a fractional CFO now." And they don't have the systems, the processes. Like we have a specific recipe that we follow that gets us the results. And we know that because we've tested it over many, many years, all different business models, all different risk types of business owners. And that's where now we're starting to have conversations with business owners who are coming to us and saying, "Oh, I had a bad experience with a fractional CFO." And that's why. So, yes, it's definitely becoming more popular, which is good because at the end of the day, there are good, fractional CFOs out there, and it's such a vital role in a business, especially after you hit that $1 million mark. It's like you have to have that brain on your business or you're just going to leak money. And all that hard work to get to the $1 million and above is gonna, really pose some problems for you.
Yeah. Let's talk about the market right now for those of us who are considering selling our business in the future. I know for most women in the trust, even as well, and these are women at, multiple seven, eight figures, when they start, if they haven't already, and they realize, wow, I'm either, I have an opportunity, I think, to do this, or I'm damn tired, I'm getting old, it's time to like start looking at what I'm going to do with this thing. Do I sell it? What do I do? Um, that is the official wake up call to clean up everything behind the curtain.
Mhm.
I know a lot of your work focuses on that, but you shared a statistic with me that was really interesting. And you said in the next 5 years, the baby boomers are going to be selling a lot of their businesses, which is going to create a lot of competition. So it's going to be even harder now. Tell us, what is the meaning of this, and what should we be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the absolute most important message for the listeners to take away is that if you think you want to sell your business in the next 5 years, you have to start today to basically get all your ducks in a row because as all these baby boomers get to the age of retirement, these business owner baby boomers, so not just all, we're talking about the business owners, they're going to be exiting their businesses. And what that's going to do is create a lot of competition out in the market. And currently, there's a statistic that says only 20% of the businesses that are listed for sale actually are sold. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. So, yes, it's a staggering number, but there's a lot of reasons. And I think what's most important and what a lot of business owners don't realize is that you have to have transferable value in your business. And there's lots of different things that you have to start thinking about, right? So, when we look at, I want to sell my business, okay, well, what's the valuation going to be? What's that number going to be? And so a lot of business owners, haven't put a lot of thought behind that yet. And they're just saying, oh, when I get there, I'll sell it. So there's a couple things that go behind that as well. The best time to sell your business is when it is performing at its best that it's ever done, right? Because that's just like if you want to go get financing from the bank. You want to go in when you don't need it, right? You don't want to go in when you're like, I'm strapped and I've got receivables that aren't going to come in and the bank's going to look at you like, yeah, I don't want to take that risk. It's the same exact concept with selling your business to another business owner is they don't want risk either. And so looking at your business, best time to sell it is when things are going great. And there's a lot of things that you can do to prepare, right? That's going to take 3 to 5 years to get everything in line so that, if somebody's comparing your business to another business in the market, you're going to be more attractive and they're going to, you're going to get a higher selling price and you're going to have better odds of actually completing that transaction.
What are some things that we could start thinking about right now?
Mhm. I think the number one thing, to do is to have don't be the operator of your business. So if you walked away from your business tomorrow, would the business still be there? Would it still be able to function? Or are you know how everything works in your head, or you're the main customer, the face that, everybody wants to work with you specifically. So when we talk about transferable value, that's probably the most important piece right there is have it professionally managed. So that means you've exited the org chart, right? You have a management team in place. And if you stepped away for a month or a year, the business would still be okay. It would still be, generating profits and doing all the things that it is intended to do. So that's probably the most important thing. And that's going to have the most impact on how much you're able to sell the business for.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
And what else?
Yeah. Okay. So, that the other thing to look at, and here's where I'm going to get a little bit more technical and, just jump in wherever you want more of a definition or a discussion around it. But so some of the other things that you should be looking at doing is number one, you have to have clean financials. That is the only thing that this person looking at acquiring your business is going to have to go off of to see how the performance has been in the past. So you want to have it very clean as far as different revenue streams, the profitability of those revenue streams, your marketing, customer acquisition, customer lifetime value, average transaction. You want to make sure that not all of your sales are coming from, a handful of clients, right? If you've got five big contracts and if one of those went away, that's going to have a big effect on your profits. That's going to be something that they don't want, right? So think of this from risk, right? Risk adverse. They don't want any risk when they're acquiring this business. So looking at your types of revenue. Do you have reoccurring revenue built into the business? That's a really big one. What does your customers acquisition process look like? Do you have documented SOPs? Do you have a management team in place? Are they operating off of KPIs, key performance indicators? Do you have a 1, 3, 5 year, plan for the business that everybody's working towards? So these are just some of the pieces that you want to make sure you're putting into place. Just high level, right? There's a million other little things that go into that, but if you were to just check the box and get 5 of those, your valuation is definitely going to increase.
Yeah, and I know these sound simple, but when you get under the hood of so many businesses, everything just moves so fast right now too, and I think people are, changing gears and shifting ways that they're even making money in their companies. It goes
Mhm.
so quickly. How do we make time for this? Like, was the selling the business is the sexy part, right? We're like, "Ooh, that's the big pie in the sky," right? And then we're like, "Oh my gosh, what if we're, doing all this just to kind of stay afloat?" And then but in the back of our mind, we're thinking, "Okay, we need to spend time on this."
Well, the easiest thing you can do is hire a fractional CFO, right? Because this is all in their wheelhouse, and they're gonna have, a checklist.
You could give them
And
the mess and they help clean it up.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what we do with a lot of our clients who tell us this is on, something that they want to work towards, we do a mock due diligence, right? We're going to create a valuation. What is the company worth today? And how does that valuation change as we install each of these different components? And so they're able to, I mean, it's the difference of, so when we talk about a multiple, right? It's a multiple of profits. And let me just back up a little bit because I think sometimes we hear about, oh, I sold my business for this, this, this. And but I think the very, very first step that anyone has to take when they're ready, they're thinking of selling their business is how much money do I need to sell this business for to be able to invest those proceeds, those funds into something that I can live off the interest. That's the very so figure out, is it 15,000 a month? Is it 5,000 a month? Is it 10,000? Whatever that number is, you're going to multiply that by 12 months. That's your annual number. Then you're going to divide by what you think you're going to get from an interest, like conservative 4 or 5%. That's going to give you what you should sell your business for, what you
I
need to
like what
sell.
you just did. You reverse engineer it. Instead of
Uh-huh.
someone saying, "Oh, well, this is what I'm gonna get because my business does this in EBITDA," right? Or whatever we are told.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
exactly it. So if you don't know how much you need to sell the business for personally, then you could just be going out and going, "Oh, I want to sell it for this." And someone goes, "Yeah, it's not even close to worth it." So you need to first figure out that number. Then the second is look and do evaluation of currently what is your business worth? Do they match? If not, now you know what the next 3 to 5 years is going to be doing. You've got to match those numbers. Otherwise, it's not worth exiting. And there's some magic numbers as well, right? EBITDA. So SDE is a seller discretionary earnings. EBITDA is so if you're a owner operator, you're going to use SDE, a multiple of SDE. If you're professionally managed, you're going to use a multiple of EBITDA. One is higher than the other. One is, like, so there's so many different variables that you need someone to hold your hand and walk you through it and explain it all so that, you've put years and years and years of blood, sweat, tears, love into building this business, which is an asset. And this asset, you want it to be worth something at the end of, when you're ready to exit it. And so, have somebody that's going to help you to make your asset as valuable as possible. And so that when you are ready to exit it, you're getting that payday that you need to be able to whatever the next chapter looks like.
I think we're in such a great time right now for women as business owners too, because in the past and still now, we're typically great earners, right? We'll go work and we'll create something, but now we're learning how to create assets, and business owners are now shifting into that mindset. I know a lot of the women in the trust are as well. If they weren't before, they're now thinking, all right, how do I now create an asset from this business? Because maybe we have such a variety of people in there too. You have ones who've created more traditional companies and ones who became, an online personality and people are following them and they're like the influencer model. And they're like, well, how do I create an asset from this? Right. So all these different models, but everyone's starting to think a little more in this more sophisticated way. I think that's the best word for
Hmm.
it. Do you see
Oh,
that as well?
absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think, if we look, I hate to do this because we're in now and this is what it's at. But if you look at how many generations back women have owned businesses, it's not really that many. Um, and so the transfer of this knowledge and this information, it's new to it's still a lot unknown. And so I think that um, it's such an accomplishment to be able to have a successful, profitable business. And now everybody's looking at, okay, now what's next? Well, now what's next is looking at how do I get the most value for this asset? And the more that we learn, the more that, we realize there's so many options and so many opportunities to you could take the existing business that you have and carve out your IP, and that's its own separate asset. You can carve out, all different types of ways to look at things. And when you go to sell your business, you don't have to sell the whole business. You can do an asset sale and sell off certain portions of it. One of the things that I think is really cool is looking at the different industries and the different multiples for industries. And a lot of times we'll talk to business owners and they'll say, well, we do this and we do this. And we'll go look at what their, you know, basic industry multiple is. And then they'll say, oh, but we have a component of that. Like we have a component of an education. We have a component of a SaaS. We have, all these different things. Well, then we go back and we say, well, if you stick with this main company, your multiple is going to be 3 because that's pretty average. 3 to 5 is very average. But if you say, oh no, we're a SaaS company, now we're talking about 10 to 20. Or if you say, I'm an educational, oh, well, the growth, the potential growth, like you can look at the market. There's all kinds of charts and graphs out there that you can research that will tell you, oh, well, this particular market, like education, is supposed to grow by 62% next year. Okay, well, maybe I want to be that because that's going to increase the valuation. So it's these little shifts that you need somebody to help you to understand.
Yeah. Also, I heard someone explain it too that you have to get your business described in a category that people understand who aren't familiar with our worlds, right? Like apples to apples. So like, oh, I know what a SaaS product is, right? Software as a service. So if you're listening or watching right now, what Andrea is saying is so, so important because these are the distinctions that could change the trajectory of your financial future, like millions and millions and millions of dollars versus banging your head against the wall for like another decade, right? And it's these things that when we share them are I know people just it a lot you see a light go off over their head and, I wanna comment on something you mentioned earlier too and kinda echo that on the flip side of this is women, then we beat ourselves up for not knowing these things sometimes. We're like, "Oh, I can't believe I started this kind of business. Maybe, 10 years ago, I should have started a software company or what." We just weren't thinking that way. And also take into account that we are, for many of us, the first generation to have these opportunities and be these kind of earners. And now we're gonna be the generation that finishes better than the previous, okay? And then the next generation will. I'm teaching my daughter now about business and assets, and we talk about these things and to what she understands at 10. But um we're all on this journey together too, and I think some circles still I'll get in and I'll feel like, oh gosh, these people think just so differently, and it's good to be around them, but then you leave kind of feeling like an idiot sometimes. um do you find that like women especially are like are they almost embarrassed sometimes about like what's behind the curtain, or they should have thought a different way, or decisions they've made?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question because I feel like it's shifting a little bit. I feel like when we first started doing this, that was the case more. And I think that now the sophistication is gotten a little bit has improved. And on top of that, they're seeing what their peers are doing and they're like, I don't know how, I don't care how. I want that. So somebody tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
I like that there's a little bit more of a healthy competitive spirit of, they say like, what is it? The rising tide lifts all boats, right? So
Mhm.
as we start to hear more of women exiting, women doing different things, and I think from my, experiences and my conversations, it's becoming more of like, well, how do I do that? I want to do that.
That's awesome. Because there are a lot more role models now than there were even 10 years ago. Now you can find all kinds of stories of women selling these incredible companies, and it's just like the women
Mhm.
we bring in to speak at the trust.
Yeah,
Will you
absolutely.
will you share with everyone listening, what made you want to be a part of the trust community?
Oh, sure. And I've been, gosh, a couple of years now, I've been in the trust and it just gets richer and richer, as new, women business owners join us and we get to hear a little bit of their background and where they came from. And, um, I think what really first drew me to it was having these types of high level conversations. Um, and just getting to the point where I wanted to be surrounded by peers that are ambitious and doing things in a way that makes me, want more and see different, opportunities out there. I think every time I leave a meeting, I'm just blown away by what each of the members are up to, how fast the speed of implementation, the speed of the exchange of knowledge, and then going out and being like, "Okay, I did that, and this is what happened." And, it's such a phenomenal group, that you don't find, that frankly, I've yet to find anywhere else.
Thank you. And we love having you and your knowledge in the room too. And there's usually a crowd around you at the cocktail hour, I've noticed, for for financial advice or like I'm thinking of selling my company. Let's talk. Um what is the reward in all this for you, Andrea?
I think just being able to share this knowledge. I've always just naturally been a connector and a giver. And, having something that could absolutely change someone's life, having that knowledge and having that skill set is just so rewarding to me to be able to share it. And, we're constantly having like lunch and learns and webinars and, I've got a podcast as well that we talk a lot about this stuff. And I just feel like the more the word gets out there and the more that women business owners specifically hear this and are learning it, that's really the reward for me because it's the difference of, oh, I've sold my business and I'm going to have a nice life, or I've sold my business and I've just created generational wealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you're thinking big. So we're going to leave you on that note. So Andrea, thank you for joining us today. Tell us, where should everyone learn more about you and follow you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Website is thecashflowcfo.com. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the usual places. Check us out. We've got lots of videos talking about this stuff so you can learn more. And yeah, reach out. We'd love to chat with you. We love talking shop. So
I love it. Thanks. Have a great day.
thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Subscribe now to the Reward Podcast to be sure to not miss an episode. And don't forget to visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. You can learn more, apply to join us, or refer another woman you know who is over the $1 million mark and is ready for a different type of women's network. We have events coming up both live and online that are truly creating new possibilities for female leaders. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there.